Hi. Before we move on to our new lesson, we're going to do a recap of Lesson 4A, which was ratio word problems. You learned about continued ratios, which is a comparison of three or more quantities in a definite order. So as practice, based on that, we have a ratio of a number of boys in a school to the number of girls is 5 to 4. There are 600 students in the school. How many of them are girls? So we have the ratio, and remember, however they tell you what the item or person is, if it's boys to girls, if it's in an order, then the numbers also follow in that same order. So I'm going to put B to G. You can also write that as a fraction, and it's 5 for the boys and then 4 for the girls. Now they said that there's 600 students in the school. Remember when I said that if they give you a total, then you will write out the ratio by adding up with the x's and then equaling it to the total that they give you. So that means the x that you're looking for is your common factor that you're going to multiply to the ratio to give you the actual numbers of girls and boys in this problem. So when you add these two, you're going to get 9x, and then when you're going to divide, you're going to get a decimal for that, so it's going to be 66.66. So basically, just leave it as that, and let's just plug it into what we need to plug it into. Since they're asking you how many girls there are, you just focus on the ratio that represents a girl. So you got the 4x, so 4x, 4 times 66.66. And then when you multiply that by 4, you'll get 266.66. Since you can't have a fraction of a person, we'll just round it to the, you could round it up, but I'm gonna round it to 266 girls. So that would be your answer. In most problems like this, you'll have a whole number, a nice number, but in this case, this is just showing you how to set up when you're doing word problems with ratios. Okay, before we move on to the lesson that we're going to do today, we see a picture and it says Claire's Boutique. And this boutique is selling accessories like hats, bags, jewelry, tops, and whatever else. So it says doorbuster deal. If you buy 3 tops, any color, any style, you will pay $45.99. But you only want to buy 1 top. So how much will you pay for that 1 item? There are 2 ways that you can do this. You know that 3 tops for $45.99. You could easily divide the 3 into $45.99, and then you would get $15.33. Or if you set up a proportion, you know that I'll use another color for that, you know that 3 tops is $45.99. How much will 1 be? How much will 1 be? So that's where you would cross multiply. So I'm going to put option 2. You would cross multiply, so you get 3x. And the same thing like you did for option 1, you would divide the 3 into $45.99 and get $15.33 for 1 top. So the thing is, we found out how much it cost for that 1 top. So that 1 over 1530 over 1 for 1533 represents something. And what does it represent? That's what we're going to learn in the next lesson. So the topic that we're going to be learning is unit rates. And the objective is, what is the difference between ratio and rates, and how do we set up word problems for them? So a rate is a ratio of two measurements having different units of measure. A unit rate is a rate that tells you how many of one item is being compared to one of another item. So usually when they have like deals and like, oh, get 3 for this amount, but if you just want to get 1, you want to know how much for one, for that, how much will 1 cost. And usually you can compare it to another thing, like let's say one store sells it for this price, and then for another store sells it at another price in this bulk deal. What is the unit rate? You can use the unit rate to compare which is the better deal. So that's when you use the unit rate. So for example, we have a clothing retailer has been rapidly expanding the number of retail stores they have in the U.S. In the past 2 years, they have opened 232 retail stores. If their rate of growth remains constant, how many retail stores will they have opened in 3 years? So the first thing you would do is you would write a proportion, and then from there you would solve. So your proportion is these retail stores 2 years. So you have 232 over 2, and they set it equal to x over 3. X represents how many stores will be opened in 3 years. So once you set it up, you know how to do this. You cross multiply, you solve for your variable, and then you label. So in 3 years, they'll have 348 stores opened. So nothing new, basically what you've done in the previous units, previous lesson. Right, so now we have another one. David finished 24 math problems in 1 hour. So I'm going to write that. So we have the hour over the problems. So that's going to help me know how to set up the ratio. So it's for 1 hour, he does 24 problems. Now they want to know how many hours will it take him to complete 72 problems. So once we set it up correctly, then we cross multiply and then we solve. And divide 24 on both sides. And then x will equal 3 hours. And you make sure to label that. So David will complete 72 problems in 3 hours. Alright, Jeremiah's boat used 5 gallons of gas in 4 hours. So we have gallons to hours. So I'll have 5 to 4. At this rate, how many gallons of gas will the boat use in 10 hours? So I want to know how many gallons for 10 hours. Set it up, cross multiply, solve, and then once you get your answer, make sure you put your label. So you'll have 12.5, not gallons, well, sorry, not hours, gallons. And make sure you use the correct label. That's why if you set it up correctly in the beginning, then you'll know what you're solving for. Mumi paints a room that is 400 square feet of wall space in 2.5 hours. So I'm going to put square feet to hours. So she has 400 square feet in 2.5, so it's the same as 2.5. At this rate, how long will it take her to paint a room that is 700 square feet of wall space? So we've got that. We set it up correctly, and now we can start solving. So that will give us 1800. And then you divide 400 on both sides. Find your x. The zeros cancel out. So 18 divided by 4 gives you 4.5. And 4.5 what? Hours. Right. Not too bad. So now we're talking about scale and scale model. Scale is a type of rate used when making a model of something that is too large or too small to be convenient at actual size. And a scale model is a 3D reproduction of an item that has been reduced or increased in size proportionally. So The example here, you see this building, which you should know because it's in New York City. We have the Empire State Building. So this is the actual building. And now you have what Lego created, a model size of the Empire State Building. So in order to create this model, to replicate the actual size of the building, they use a scale. So let's say for every inch, it would be equal to, let's say, 50 feet. So every inch of this scale model, an inch would represent 50 feet. So if you had, if this was 16, if it's 16 inches, it's not actually, let's say 20 inches for that one. So basically you multiply the 20 to the 50, and this would be 1,000, represent 1,000 feet. So let's say if the Empire State were 1,000 feet. So this would be the actual size, so it's in proportion. So they use a scale for this model in order to represent the actual building. So that's what a scale and scale model is. Alright, so we're going to do examples based on that. I don't know where that 1 1/8 is floating there, so get rid of that. So it says the scale on a map of the Great Smoky Mountains. A scale on a map of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is 3 inches equal 10 miles. The length of the Ramsey Cascade Trail is about 1 1/8 inches on the map. What is the actual length of the trail? So for every 3 inch, it represents 10 miles. So for the trail, they said that it's 1 1/8, so that is in decimal 1.125. They want to know what's the actual length. So that's the missing piece that we're looking for. So then when we multiply, we're going to get 11.25, divide 3 on both sides, and then your x will be, oops, put the wrong number on the calculator, will be 3.75 miles. Okay, next one. Naya is planning a summer vacation. She wants to visit Petrified National Forest and Meteor Crater, Arizona, the 50,000-year-old impact site of a large meteor. On the map, with a scale where 2 inches is equal to 75 miles, the two areas are about half an inch, 1.5 inches apart. What is the distance between the Petrified National Forest and the meteor crater? Okay, so they gave you the scale, 2 to 75, so 2 inches to 75 miles, and they gave you what it is on the map, which is 1.5 inches. So what is it in actual size, in mileage? So you set that up, make sure everything is set up correctly, and so that will be 2x, and then 75 times 1.5 gives you 112.5. Divide by 2, and then you get your x to be 56.25 miles, or you can have it as a fraction, 56.25 miles. Okay, so remember, anytime during this video lesson, if you are confused, you missed something, you can always pause and go back. And if you still have difficulty in terms of setting up when it comes to word problems, you can always email me. Alright, to make a model of the Hudson River bed, Omar used an inch of clay for 5 miles of river's actual length. His model river was 50 inches long. How long is the Hudson River, the actual Hudson River? So for every inch, it represents 5 miles. So if his model was 50 inches long, what is the actual length of the river? So we set it up correctly, and then we just cross multiply, so that will come out to 250 miles. Okay, next one. In November 2017, the average price of 5 gallons of gas was $15.50. what was the price for 16 gallons of gas? So we have gallons, gals to price. So I know how to set it up. So I know that the top part will be gallons. For 5, it's 1550. So we need to know how many gallons, we know 16, how much it is for 16 gallons. So we set it up. We cross multiply, and then for 16 times 0.1550, we have 248. And then we divide 5 on both sides. And then we should get $49.60 or $49.60. Make sure you put the dollar sign because 49.60. I might think you're talking about miles or whatever it is. So make sure you label correctly. Next one. The Hudson Market is selling 3 packs of gum for 87 cents. How much will 10 packs of gum cost at this price? And round your answer to the nearest cent. So we got 3 packs for 87 cents. How much will 10 packs be? So once you set up correctly, then you cross multiply. So this will be 870 divided by 3. And then 870 divided by 3 gives you $2.90. Well, we don't need to round everything. We're good. So it's $2.90. Right, the next one. The Empire State Building. Oh, we were talking about that with the scale model. The Empire State Building is 1450 feet tall. The Chrysler Building is 1127 feet tall. Suppose you are asked to build a small scale replica of each. If you make the Empire State Building 3 meters tall, what would be the approximate height of the Chrysler Building replica? And round your answer to the nearest hundredth. All right. So in order to get the Chrysler to its model scale, make it proportion, I'm going to use blue for this one, you need to find out how the Empire State Building relates to the actual one. You have to find the scale for it. So we know that the Empire State Building is 3 feet tall, and you made it 3 meters tall. So if 3 meters represents the 1450 feet, then you need to find the unit rate in order to use that to create the Chrysler Building replica. So for 3 meters that you built for the model of the Empire State Building, it represents the 1450 feet, which is the actual size. So how many feet would it be for just 1 meter? Okay, we do that first. And I'm going to put Empire because we're dealing with that scale for Empire. So we do cross multiply, divide 3 on both sides, and then we should get 83.33. So I'm just going to leave it like this. So that for every meter, it represents 483.33 feet. So I'm going to use that scale. I'm going to turn this green, and I'm going to put the word Chrysler, because now I need to make my Chrysler model. So for that scale, for the 1 meter, which represents 483.33 feet, I'm going to use what they gave us, which was 1127 for the actual height of the Chrysler Building, and see what will my model, how tall my model will be based on the scale, the small scale, the model scale. So again, cross multiply, and then you will divide the 483.33 on both sides. And then, let's see if I have that number. Okay, so that divided by that, and it will come out to 2.33172, but they want us to round it to the nearest hundredth. So that means my x will be 2.33 meters. That's how tall my model is going to be for the Chrysler building. There you go. So it's mostly a two-step problem. So again, if you have the actual sizes of the building and you built a model, you use that scale to do the other building. So that's what this problem was about. Okay, so we're at the end, and just a recap of what we learned. Oops, went too far. So we learned about the rate, which is the ratio of two measurements having different units of measure. Then the unit rate, it tells you how many of one item is being compared to the other. And then we also learned about scale and scale model. So we know that a scale you use in order to replicate something that is too big and make it small or big, or small to reduce it, or sorry, that's scale model. Scale you use in it's a rate when you have to take something that's actually too big or too small and make it into a size that is convenient for you. A scale model is basically taking an actual physical object and making it small or big, but make sure that the proportions are there. Alright, so that's what we did for this lesson, and that's all. So have a good day.